Well, welcome to episode 3 of Tell Us About. We'll get on to what we're telling us about in just a second, if that makes any sort of sense. But yes, today's guest is our friend Jasmine Matthews. Hello, Jazz.
Hi.
We'll get on to speaking to you very shortly, but Matt...
Come on, Dan, do us a favour here. Our Chief Branding Officer.
Sorry, Chief...
Oh, thank you. Thank you very
Matthews,
much.
Esquire.
Yes, the lady behind our beautiful faces that you can see on our Facebook page. She drew that, and it's scarily accurate. She's given us the actual drawing that she's done of our faces.
I'm staring at myself.
Yeah, and so am I. And it is like looking into a mirror. I know that sounds cliched, but it actually is. That's quite scary.
I mean, that's the best you can hope for as an artist, really.
Perfect. Before we get on to Jazz's specialist subject and the subject of today's podcast, this evening's podcast, whenever you're listening to it, Matt, you've got a bit of housekeeping.
Yeah, first of all, we've decided on the name.
Yay!
First 2 episodes, we didn't know what it was. It was Tell Me About, it was Tell Us Something About. We didn't know what it was going to be. Tell Us About is what we've gone with. It's definitive, it's done. Until we get bored of it. I'll tell you what, it'll work even better. Development number 4. So housekeeping for this week. Just that thanks for everyone that engaged with us so far. So we've released the first 2 now, and we're now going to be releasing them either weekly or bi-weekly. And everybody's reacted really nicely, and I've had some really lovely feedback. And mine's catching up yours in views and listens now. So
yeah.
We'll be tracking that.
The ratings war has begun between myself and Matt.
And that's, to be fair, we can do the rest of the episodes and we will not even look.
No.
But our 2...
But please stay with us as well for episode 3, which today we're going to be speaking to our friend, as I say, Jasmine Matthews, because she is a super fan.
Yes. We are doing a super fan episode. So the first one we did, Dan's a radio producer. Second one we did, film music things. And they were both kind of professional things.
Yeah.
I don't really consider myself a professional in terms of film music. But they were both kind of career-y things.
Yeah.
And then we were like, I'll tell you what I don't know anything about and would love to, is how one maintains a super fandom of something. And we're calling you that, by the way. That's not you saying you're a super fan. I think
Thank you.
You're a super fan because the dedication involved is quite unbelievable. And I don't care about anything that much.
Yeah. It's a passion.
Really interesting. Yeah.
It's an absolute passion. So we're going to get onto that right about now. But to give us the intro, take it away, Matt.
And there it was.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Can't get any better than that.
My little head goes side to side.
It's a thing of beauty. So, as I say, telling us about being a super fan this week is Jasmine Matthews. So, Jazz, tell us first off, I guess, what you are a super fan of.
So I am a super fan of, as you guys have put it, of the band Muse.
Now, we've seen them this summer, Matt.
We have.
And
you came with me.
We came with you, and it was amazing. I've got to give you that. It was absolutely amazing.
They're quite something live.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a damn good show, those guys.
They really are. So where did this this passion come from? Was it just seeing them for the first time and just going, oh my God, I've never seen anything like it?
It was kind of a mix, really. I first heard of them in 2009, and I just kind of latched onto them. I think it was just kind of a time in my life where I was struggling with things a little bit and just kind of stumbled across the fandom as well, and just kind of latched onto it and was like, this is my life now. And then when I saw them live for the first time in, I want to say 2013, after seeing them do a show, that's it, I was hooked. I was like, oh my gosh, this I need to keep coming to. And just kept going.
Yeah.
They're great showmen, aren't they? I was amused and amazed by how much is in a Muse show in terms of spectacle, from the lights and the screen and the big stuff that I won't spoil it in case anyone's going to see them and doesn't know what's coming.
You're in for a surprise.
Yeah, but people dressed up in stuff and lights everywhere and confetti and stuff going on. There's something, if not for your ears, for your eyes all the time.
They don't, like, they're not short on with the budget. You know, they really put everything into it. Like, even back in the earlier days when they didn't have that much money to spend on things, they'd nearly bankrupt themselves every tour and just hope that people turned up, because it was like, well, if we're going to do a show, we're going to put on a spectacle.
Yeah.
And it's great to see.
Absolutely. And was that a part of it that for you, just going back to what you said earlier on there, of being part of something, is that what makes it so special? Because
oh yeah, definitely.
There are loads of people who are into their bands, but there's a select group of you that are just into, well, I mean, you like other bands, but I mean, that are, you just have this passion for Muse. So is that part of it, just being part of something?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Matt, you came with me before to one of my earlier shows, and you said yourself that as soon as I turned up, it's like I changed.
Yes.
I was like a completely different person, and that was just exactly it. So I'd find this group of people who I just kind of got, and I could go up and talk to them so easily because we had a common interest immediately.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, hey, new friends.
Yeah.
And it just gave me this whole new confidence to be able to do that. And that was what I loved about it so much, because it's not just going to see Muse anymore. I go to see friends that I don't see any other time, because that's when we all spend our money. They're from all over the world, and we all come to one place. And we've spent all this money to get there. So it's nice to see everybody. So it's not just about going to a show anymore. It's about going and seeing all of my friends.
In some ways, it's like a religion, isn't it?
It kind
Do you know
of
what
is,
I mean?
yeah.
And
yeah.
Do you know what? That's what struck me, actually. I'd forgotten we'd gone to that. So that was in Coventry. That gig. Now, no one would willingly go to Coventry, would they? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Why would you willingly go to Coventry? And we went because I think it was one of the only ones that had tickets left.
Yeah.
And then I got there, and I thought, I know Jasmine met a couple of times before, so she knows what she's doing. I didn't know what to expect. And it was like watching a little family just go, oh, I remember you, welcome. Even if you'd been once, twice, 3 times, it was like, come on in, let's get ourselves to the barrier, get ourselves as close as possible, and just get involved, get in amongst us.
Yeah. It's something special about that. Like I say, it is like a religion, because it is people coming together for one cause, which is on this instance, supporting Muse. It could be for anything though. It could be supporting your local football team. It's like that, being a super fan and just having this passion. That's something special, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like you say, it is exactly like a family. So we all turn up, and sometimes if you've not even met people before, it's people that you've seen somewhere on Twitter or Instagram or wherever, and you're like, I recognise you from somewhere, and it's because you've talked online before. So it's like, oh hey, oh my gosh. And that's a really nice and strange thing, actually, seeing somebody for the first time that you've talked to a lot online. And just having that instant connection, being like, well, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't we do this before?
So just tell us about then that first Muse gig, and don't have to go into where you were at that time, but what made it so special, just going there for the first time, or what made it better than your first gig that you ever went to?
I think, like I say, the family things. So turning up, like I've been to previous gigs and you just kind of go with the group of friends that you're with, but it was turning up to this gig and just suddenly having 40 people. We were all queuing outside and turning up, and it's like a whole experience. So we kind of we do this thing where we put the numbers on our hands so that we know who got there first, and we're all very like civilized about it. So it's like, okay, you got here first, you deserve to go in first. And it was just that, and turning up and just seeing people and everyone being so welcoming. The queuing, so I tend to queue from early in the morning, and meet a lot of people there, but it was just turning up to that, and the whole day was an experience. It wasn't just going in and seeing the gig. It was the whole thing. And then the show itself was just incredible. And I was like, this is what I want to spend my money on. I'm happy, because I could see where my money had gone. Sometimes you turn up to a gig and it's literally just somebody on a stage themselves, and they're like, well, you've come here to see me, so that's that. But they really put everything into it, and I could see where every penny of my ticket money had gone, and I was like, yeah, no, I appreciate this a lot. Thank you.
And how soon after that first gig did you then go and go, I want to see them again? When was the next gig? Did you have to wait long?
I had to wait because that tour had sold out, so I couldn't get any tickets for any more of that tour. And at the time I was poor because I'd only just started my first job, so I wasn't earning the best amount of money, so I would just spend what I could afford every time that they went on tour, and it's just slowly increased over time as I've grown with age and my salary has gone up.
My Muse budget increased this year.
Literally, it's kind of like a running joke that they own my bank account, because every time that they announce something, it's like, right, what have I got left? Nothing? Okay, well, I'm still going to go anyway.
Exactly.
No food for 3 weeks? That'll be fine.
The sacrifices that I make.
So how many times have you seen them live now?
I have seen them live 26 times now.
Wow.
That's pretty good. Wow. Do they do season tickets? I mean, that should be a
Do you
thing.
know what? I honestly wish that they did. And they did it one time where they did this thing called the Psycho Tour, and they did these tiny venues, and you could buy a ticket which included tickets to all of the gigs on that tour. At the time, I couldn't afford it, unfortunately, so I only got for 2. But
I think that's a pretty good idea. They need to have a look at that. I think
I think they should. There's enough fans. They know that we would do it because they see us at all of them, and they're like, "Oh, you're here again." And it's like, yes, please, just some discount would be appreciated.
You know, I'm going to be here again.
Yeah.
So from that first gig and from the recent gigs that you've seen, so what? Like, I just want to know what lengths you've gone to seeing them live. So, like, how far have you gone? Like, interestingly, most unique place that you've seen them, and also like the furthest you've travelled to go and see Muse.
Furthest I've travelled, I went to America and saw them in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
I kind of convinced my boyfriend that it would be a really good idea that we could wrangle it into a holiday. I was like, well, we've never been to America. Why not? So
There's somewhere I've always wanted to go. Where's their gig next week?
Yeah.
Montreal. How about that?
That's literally, I was like, we can totally, and I've done that a couple of times now. So we did America, and then the next year we went to Germany, and we just kind of
drove to Germany, right?
We drove to Germany, yeah.
Wow.
Did a whole road trip when we went to like Amsterdam, Disneyland, stuff like that. Tied it all in around going to see Muse at a festival.
Does he know that that's what happened?
Oh,
Or does he-
100%.
And you can drive the whole way there. Look, that's your bit.
That was actually something that he decided he wanted to do, so I'll let him
Fair
have
enough.
that one.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That was
But the most
trick.
interesting place I'd seen them, and probably one of the dumbest things that I did, I saw them play in Paris, and it was in front of the Eiffel Tower. It was whilst the World Cup was
Wow.
on, and it was absolutely incredible. But the stupid part was that I went to Glastonbury literally the day before. So I'd gone to Glastonbury Festival for 5 days, and then I came back, literally had a nap, got up, went to London, got the Eurostar with my friend, and went to see them in Paris, then came back to work the next day.
Oh my god. The
Wow.
good thing is, though, you would have smelt like a French person. So that's fine.
I had a shower before I went to Paris.
A couple of onions on each shoulder.
But yeah,
and they'll never tell the
it really
difference.
was quite something. We slept on the floor. It was just an open air thing, just set up in front
That is
of
cool.
the Eiffel Tower, and we got there and we just took a nap before they came on.
They do play some amazing places. And am I right in saying that you've seen them as well in the live lounge?
I have
Radio 1's
Radio
live
1's
lounge.
live lounge.
That's pretty cool.
That was the best day of my life.
That's a unique experience, isn't it?
It really was. They actually gave me, so as part of the live lounge, they got everyone who was there to dress up. So they gave us like feather boas and hats and stuff. At the time I had orange hair, so I picked this orange sequin hat that they had because I was like, well, it's made for me.
Yeah.
Because I'll always have orange hair. Right?
Yeah, right. But it turned out that it glowed under blue light,
Oh, wow.
which is something that they use quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I was like, this hat is perfect. Oh my gosh. And I wear it to every gig.
And do they sort of recognise you now, right?
They do, yeah. Actually, when one of the best moments of that day was when they walked in to do their interview before they did the live lounge. Matt sat down and pointed at me and went, I know you. I was like, yeah, you do.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm done. My life is done.
Literally, I was like,
finished.
my life is complete. The only thing that then made it better is following that, they then did the interview, and they announced in the interview that they were doing a gig that night in Brixton, and it was first come, first served for tickets.
Oh, wow.
So everyone in the room, we were all looking at each other and panicking, like, we need to get down there after this is done. How quickly can we get out of here once this is over? And they looked at us and went, oh, no, it's all right. We'll put you on the guest list.
Oh, wow. That's
I
pretty
love
cool.
you, Matt Bailey.
Literally.
You're
Job
my favourite.
done. That
Yeah.
is amazing. That's a pretty unique place.
It was really unique, yeah.
So we've talked about the kind of family element of the high level of kind of fandom, the super fans that we're labelling.
Hmm.
Roughly how many do you reckon of kind of your, I'm going to call it a level because I feel like there's the general ticket goer, then there's people who've seen them a couple of times. I've seen them twice. I'm a fan. I wouldn't consider anything more than that. And then as you kind of progress up, there's people who've seen them this many times.
Yeah.
Roughly how many people do you think globally?
Oh, there's hundreds and probably thousands.
Mm.
I mean, usually at every gig that I go to, there's a standard crowd of about 100 people that usually always queue. So the regulars that you'll see at the UK shows, and then there's regulars at the European shows and everything as well. So there's definitely worldwide there's thousands.
Wow.
European, like maybe 1,000 or so. I mean, one of the shows that proved that was they did a show at Shepherd's Bush, which was a by request show. So everyone that got a ticket got to pick 10 songs that they wanted them to play, and they played the top 10 songs of what was selected. Most incredible gig ever, because they played songs that they had never played together live before, ever. Or even one of them, easily they'd recorded separately, so technically they had never played it together before, and they played it at this show, so it was sensational.
They know how to play that, if you could theorise. How did they...
Oh, well, I mean, they must have practiced it before, but like,
Listen, guys, we're going to get all the back catalogue stuff
Yeah,
here.
no, literally. So
B-sides
they gave a list of songs that you could pick from. So they kind of had a vague idea of what people were going to pick, but like they must have, I don't know when they closed the voting, but they must have seen the top 10 and then had to practice them beforehand. But it was really quite something. But yeah, that show, I can't remember the capacity of it now. It was like 1,000, I think, that venue, and it sold out. And everyone who was there was a super fan, 100%. Yeah. There was like 10 people maybe that were annoyed at the set list because they were like, "Where are the popular songs?" Yeah. Some people, we saw them complaining online, and everyone was like, "Oh, come on, this game was not for you."
See, that's a good point, because this is why I asked is how many of you there are, because the general ticket goer would not know, I don't think.
Yeah.
They'd get there and they'd be like, okay, there's a barrier down there, there's people on it. You wouldn't know, maybe you would, I don't think I would know, why are they, because they've been here since 9 a.m. and there is a specific group that do this all the time. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. Because if you're sat up in the sticks and you haven't got whatever it is, a premium gold circle, whatever they call the ticket, position, you just wouldn't know that there's people with actual stuff from the band at the front going, I've travelled 450 miles to be here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like, I find the term superfan weird, and the reason that I'm kind of like not sure on it is because I feel like I'm weak in comparison to a few other fans that I know. Like, there's a woman I know from Australia who's seen them probably nearly 200 times now.
Wow.
So is that not every major gig they've ever done?
I mean, pretty much, but only since 2009.
Okay.
So
20 times a year?
Roughly, yeah. At least.
My goodness.
She would just follow them around the world. So she'd do all the UK shows, then she'd do all the European shows, then she'd do all the American shows, then she'd do all the Australian shows. And
jeez.
Like, I mean, she's an incredible woman, but it's like, I feel in comparison to that I'm nothing.
This is where the respect comes in for me on my side, is that I love a lot of things. I couldn't see them. I'm a big Coldplay fan, for example, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And I've seen them twice, and I wouldn't say I would want to see them 200 times.
Yeah.
Money, really, for the main reason, but also I just wouldn't feel the impulse. I'm not that level of fan of something. So it's really interesting to me for somebody to want to see... I'm not going to call it the same show, because every show will be slightly different. Yeah,
that's the point I always make when people are like, but you're just seeing the same thing, and I'm like, they changed the set list. So it's always used to be the way that the one show that I wouldn't go to, they'd play a song that I'd never heard before, and I'd be like, well, this is why I go to all of them.
Therefore, I have to go to every single one. Literally. Just so that I don't miss it.
Is that a part of it? Have you got kind of like a little tick list going of what you have seen live and what you haven't?
A bit, yeah. I mean, one song that I'd been wanting to see them play live for years is a song called Fury. It's my favourite song ever. And I'd always used to hold up a sign for it, like, please, please play this song. And they played it at that Shepherd's Bush gig, and I bawled my eyes out. I literally, it's from the first note, my friend was like, this is it, and tapped me on the shoulder, and immediately, sobbing, my other friend threw me on his shoulders and was like, I want you to be up there for this, because I know how long you've waited for this. And all it was, because this venue was so small as well, the band are looking at me, and I'm just bawling my eyes out, and I was like, this is humiliating, but I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Literally.
Wow.
Are you a part of any other fandoms, would you say?
I don't, not anymore, I wouldn't think. When I was younger, it was kind of just a thing that I did, not to the level with Muse, but I used to be in like YouTube fandoms and stuff, and I'd go to an event called Summer in the City, which is a YouTube convention, and that, like, I used to be part of a few fandoms in that, but it's something I kind of outgrew. It felt kind of strange. I went to Summer in the City a couple of years ago, and the moment I realised that I outgrew it was when I realised how old I felt and how I didn't like connect with any of the YouTubers anymore. Even though some of the same ones had gone, I was sat there listening to them talk and going, actually, no, this isn't for me anymore. I kind of find it really weird. So I used to be, but not anymore. This is
Yeah.
this is the one thing that I'd say that I'm still like really.
But I suppose as Muse get older, you grow with them,
That's,
don't you?
yeah,
Really? So any
and I
new
feel
stuff.
like YouTubers are a little bit different in that they still try to target the same audience because
Yeah.
they still make the same content. Where
Of course.
I feel like Muse have evolved over the years, and every album is different. So there's always something new to see and something new to appreciate.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I've kind of like grown with it, like you say.
Yeah,
Are there any
absolutely.
periods of Muse where you thought, no, not for me?
The second law.
Okay, that's the third to last album,
But
right?
ironically, that was the first tour I saw them on. So, but that was
That was the
just
tour I
good.
went to, wasn't it?
Yeah,
The first one.
yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
And the tour was incredible, and I think that's what made me kind of fall in love with that album a little bit more. But when it came out, I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this because it was so like disconjointed. All of the songs were separate. It wasn't. It didn't tell a story really. Well, it did in a way. There was a theme, but they've done some conceptual albums which literally told a story throughout, and the songs flowed into one another. But the second one was the first one where it was so sporadic and different. Every song was completely separate from the rest. And I think that's why that album didn't connect with me as much. But the tour that they did for it was absolutely incredible, as I'm sure you will
really
agree.
hot. Remember that?
Oh,
the,
yeah.
The pyro right at the front.
Yeah.
They had flames right there.
Lots of flamethrowers.
And you was like, oh, come on, that's just a bit.
Singe me eyebrows off here.
Literally, it
Come
was so hot.
Yeah.
So that album had Madness on it,
Yeah.
Big Freeze on it, very, very different. Panic Station on it.
Yeah.
That's
That
my
song I
favourite,
actually
'cause
love.
that's
That
with
it's
all the
so
horns,
funny.
like,
Yeah.
that was my favourite.
It's the one I actually like. They stopped playing it, and it's one that I actually wish that they would reintroduce, just because it's such a feel-good song.
But if you can you imagine going from like Psycho, like,
Yeah.
down to.
But that's kind of how I feel about Dig Down at the minute. I'm not a huge fan of Dig Down. I like the alternative version, but it does kind of they'll be playing some like heavier stuff, and then they'll go into a really like acoustic version of Dig Down, and it's a really strange moment.
Yeah.
But also nice because acoustic isn't something that they've ever really done before. So it's like, okay, I appreciate what you're doing, but
Yeah.
it feels a little bit different.
So what's like society's reaction to like where we're calling it, me and Dan are calling it super fandom. That's the only term I feel that could be applicable. What's like the society, like your folks or close friends who maybe don't follow something to that degree?
Yeah.
Is there a societal reaction, you think, to that
I
kind
mean,
of passion?
The first kind of reaction is just kind of, what? Like, when I tell people, whenever I go into a new, because I'm freelance now, whenever I go into a new place, it's something that will eventually come up in conversation, because either it'll be that I've got a gig lined up or something.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, cool, have you ever seen them before? And then I'm like, yeah, actually, 20 odd times. And I'm like, what? And then trying to explain, well, I really like them, and I've been following them for a few years. And I mean, my family's reaction is they've just stopped listening at this point. Whenever I talk about it, I understand, because at the time when I first got into them, it was one of the only things that I talked about, because like whenever they'd come on TV or anything, I'd be like, oh wait, because my mum would just be flicking channels and I'd hear a second of a song and I go back.
That was them. Oh wow.
So I think they're just sick of hearing about it. But yeah, society's reaction is just usually they just don't understand unless somebody has something that they're into. Everyone's just usually confused. Like, why would you spend all of your money on that? Surely it's just the same show every time. Just why? So trying to explain myself is very difficult sometimes.
Because comparatively, effort and time-wise, that kind of effort and time with most people goes into TV. You sit down, you watch TV for 5 hours a night in some cases, or you play console games, or you do something. That amount of effort and time goes into that, right? So there's no difference between it. Just this is going out and doing something.
Well, yeah, that's the way that I
might
explain
seem
it.
repetitive. Is that perhaps where you think it comes
To some extent, sometimes. Like, I mean, this tour they didn't really change up the set list, so it was a little bit repetitive. But the thing that was different was seeing different fans, because not everybody goes to all of the shows.
Yeah.
So there was still that element of it. But like you say, that's the way that I always explain it to people, because they're like, well, why would you do that so many times? I'm like, well, actually, it means that I get to travel, because I'll go and see them in different places, because that gives me a new opportunity to see things. And meeting up with friends. It's more than just going to a gig.
Yeah, it's a passion, isn't it? It's not like it's like somebody saying, "Oh, I've listened to that CD 30 times." That would be like literally nothing has changed for you listening to that CD.
Yeah.
But like you say, it's more about the experience, isn't it?
It's
And
the
to be honest,
experience
there is no better. Well, one of the best experiences you can have, isn't it? Going to watch Muse, and like I say, meeting up with friends as well. So there's so much more to that going to watch Muse.
I think accidental fandoms exist. I can safely say I reckon I've listened to some albums 20, 30 times, or at least a lot of the songs from those albums again and again, and I don't think people would ever really realise. I think it's easy to forget that life is quite repetitive, and so you end up doing things over and over and over, and you might not realise you're a super fan of them until somebody says, "Hey, I think this is what you are," and then you're like, "Oh yeah, I really do have a passion for that."
Yeah, I mean, it's even like when I've invited you guys to come to the gigs. It's not necessarily something that you think that you listen to much, or even sometimes people wouldn't know who they were, and I'd play them a song and they go, "Oh yeah, I really like those guys." It's like, well, yeah. See, they are good. I'm not crazy.
Yeah,
I hadn't listened to them
people
for a
wouldn't.
year. For the last gig, I hadn't listened to them for like a year.
Yeah.
And I went back to it and I was like, "Oh, I miss this. This is fun."
Yeah.
It's like our teenage years, wasn't it? There was a lot of that.
Yeah, definitely.
There's an element, isn't there, of everyone being a fan of something, and then once you get into that level, like we've said, of being a super fan. So, like, for you, do you think there is a line between being just a fan to a super fan? Where is that line drawn?
I think it's kind of a difficult question to answer, really, because, like I've said already, I'm not entirely comfortable with the term superfan, but I understand why people would call me a superfan.
Yeah.
And the main reason for that is the kind of like sense of almost entitlement that comes along with that. So sometimes, even though, like I say, it's going to see family at a gig, there is a sense of entitlement in some people where it's like, well, I deserve to be at the front because I've done X, Y, and Z. And that can be kind of frustrating, and that's why I wouldn't want to say like, oh, because it almost suggests that I'm better than other fans, which I'm not. Anyone can go to a gig. We've all paid to be here, and we all just love the same thing. So it's kind of tricky in a way to say where that line is, because sure, I've been to 26 gigs, but then some people have been to 100 gigs, some people have been to 5. And it doesn't really matter. All that really matters is whether you enjoy it or not. So I think that's just the more important thing, because otherwise, like I say, it can wind up being like an entitlement thing. Like this tour, they brought in like a VIP ticket, and it wound people up because it allowed early entry. So it really made it difficult as to where that line was, because it was like, well, am I going to be that person to spend the extra money to get in early when we've always been really dedicated to queuing and everything, so it almost felt like a betrayal to do that.
True.
And then there were people on the other side of that who were like, well, who would buy that ticket? How entitled are you to think that you deserve to get in early? Like, you haven't seen them as many times as I have. It's only because you have the money to be able to spend on this ticket. And it was a shambles, really. It really, like...
Does it get aggy at the gig? Have
it
you ever
does.
seen it get a little bit
It does, yeah.
Who the hell are you, then?
Yeah, and the thing that really winds me up is when people push in. So people who turn up late, and then they wheedle their way through the crowd to try and get to the barrier. And it's like, you haven't been here for as long as that's where I do feel a sense of entitlement. I'm like, I've been here since 9 a.m. You do not get to come in at 5 and just kind of push your way through. And they start like creeping their hand onto the barrier and just waiting for the crowd to move, and I'm like, it's not happening.
No.
It's a very British thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have stood here in this queue for 12 hours and I will have my place.
Yeah.
You made your choice.
Yeah.
Now you must live by it.
You got stuck in traffic. Sucks to be you.
That's exactly. I mean, the American show, I got stuck in traffic and I was late, and it was like the worst thing ever. I was just lucky that I had seats for that. But that's exactly the thing. Had I been late, I was late. So never mind. That's my bad. If I got to be at the back, I got to be at the back.
Yeah.
If you're going to be dedicated, you have to actually be dedicated.
Is it a different show for you, sat to standing?
Yes.
Because I've only ever seen, if I've seen one person, I've seen them sat or standing. I haven't seen both. So, is there one you enjoy more? And I think I already know the answer to this. But from a spectacle point of view, do you get to see more sat?
Yes.
Okay.
So it depends on the way that I actually dictated the sitting for the first time was on the Drones tour, and that was because obviously we don't know what we're going to see until we go to the first show. And going in and seeing that show, it was unbelievable. They had done it so that everyone had something to look at. So it made me want to get a seat ticket. It was one that I bought last minute so that I could see it from further back, because they had all these drones flying around.
Wow.
There was all sorts going on. It was absolutely incredible. And I'm so glad that I got a seat, because I would never have been able to appreciate it in the same way. Because they spent some money on that tour. So having a seat was incredible, because you got to be able to see all of... I mean, there was like 15 drones flying around. And there was one song where they had this huge Reaper drone come in, and it was terrifying, and that was the point of it. It was supposed to be like there were bombs going off, and it was a war zone, and it was absolutely incredible. So yeah, it depends, and it's one that I can't, like I say, I can't gather until I go to the first one of the tour as to whether or not I want a seat. So I did a couple of times, but the good thing is when it's stadium shows, it tends to be that it's either pitch/unreserved seating.
Yeah.
So I can decide at a later point if I want to have a seat. But yeah, I prefer standing, because I feel closer to everybody, and I get to be with all of my friends, and it's like a whole extra experience added on to the show.
Yeah, and like following on from that, is it better to, because you've seen both as well, the bigger the venue the better, or is an enclosed sort of smaller venue quite good? Like, which is better? Do you know what I mean? Do you prefer having the smaller crowd or the bigger venue?
My favourite shows are arena shows, I think. The small shows are incredible, but I think too many of them, and we would be spoiled. I mean, we were spoiled with Shepherd's Bush, and a few people have kind of taken a step back following that. I mean, this tour, there were a few people I had no idea who they were. And that was a strange experience for me, turning up and going, I actually feel like I'm not supposed to be here, because I don't know who most of these people are. And it's because after the Shepherd's Bush show, because we got everything that we could have ever wished for, people were like, well, that's it. I'm done. Nothing will beat this. Yeah. And so they've not bothered. And I'm like, well, that's fair enough. It's a show to finish on.
Those small venues, though, you do get a kind of you're looking into their eyes.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Are soaking it in.
Yeah.
And they are very charismatic guys. So there's an element of that to it. But you get also, just from standing on the barrier, don't you, the swagger on down the stage. And it's pretty special when they come out and they're moving around and they're coming near you. There is just like a wave reaction of people, of kind of whatever level of fan you might want to consider yourself. It's like oh God, they're coming over here.
Yeah, and if you ever get that moment where they actually look at you as well, it's like, oh my God. So the small venues are great for having like that connection with the band.
Yeah.
But I also like when they have a connection with the crowd as a whole. So that's why I quite like arenas, because you have more people to get involved whenever there's like sing-along bits and stuff. And it's not too large. Like stadiums are a bit too big, because you wind up feeling like you're too far away from them. But yeah, arenas kind of seem to be that perfect balance of having the chance to be up close, but also the ability for them to put on the big spectacle, because you can't do that in a smaller venue. You can't have fireworks going off, because they're going to set the place on fire.
So I'm interested to know as well of like how far Muse can go, because there's almost a part of me that feels like Muse haven't reached their peak yet. I still don't think they're in the collective voice of like this country, of like the best bands to ever come out of this country. So how far do you think they can go? Can they sell out even more arenas? Like, how big can the tours get, do you think?
Oh, it's a difficult question. I honestly don't know, because there have been points where we're like, how are they going to go any bigger than this? Because they're bringing in actors and dancers and all the pyrotechnics and the fireworks. I mean, they've built giant robots before. It's quite something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult to say. It's always something that they're saying themselves, and every tour they're always looking at what the new technology is that they can use, like bringing in the drones. That was such a new technology at the time, and being able to make them dance with each other, that was what was incredible. So it kind of depends, I feel, on where technology goes as to what they can do, because they're always looking to include whatever the new advancement is, because they want to do things that people have never done before.
It's a strange one, because I don't feel like they have breached the kind of, when you say British bands and you go the Stones, the Beatles, the whatever, I don't feel like it's for lack of trying that they aren't they don't cognitively come to you like that, because they sell out tours like anybody else. They
Yeah.
sell out tours like the Stones, like your Coldplays, like your Arctic Monkeys. They sell out tours like anybody else. I don't know. I think it might be that evolution, you know, because the Rolling Stones have a sound, and that was all it really ever is this sound. And the Beatles got a bit crazy near the end, but they have a sound.
It summed up an era, didn't it?
Right, and I think Muse kind of... this is a bit... I have no idea if this is true, but do you think they don't really care and are just going to evolve, and we want to do this genre now, so we're going to do this, and if you tell us it's not rock anymore, I don't really care?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
Okay.
I think but that's what keeps them interesting.
Yeah.
For me, and I think for most fans, it's because they do what they enjoy, and that's what's one of the nicest things. I mean, with their latest album, listening to it, you could hear how much fun they had making it, and that was all that really mattered to me. Like, it wasn't something that I would have thought that I would have enjoyed, and it's not just people tend to think that I love it just because it's Muse, and that has been in previous, like in the past, maybe. Sometimes I'll be like, yeah, this is great just because it's Muse, but I'm now at a point where I can go, well, I didn't really like the second Law and things like that. So I don't just like it because it's Muse, but you could hear that they enjoyed making it, and that's what matters to me the most, because if they stop having fun and if they just start doing things for the charts, then it's not fun anymore, because you'll be able to see that in their stage production. The most important thing is that they're enjoying themselves, otherwise they're just going to burn out and they'll stop making music, because that happens with any artist. The minute that it stops being enjoyable, you can tell the passion is lost from the music, and they start having to bring in other people to help them out, and I don't want them to have to get to that point. I'd rather they keep doing what they enjoy and keep changing it up, and if they don't, like you say, care about it, then fine, because I don't think it's important that they necessarily become like this British staple of a band. And Coldplay, for example, you know, they are a common household name, which is what's really interesting, because they're from like the same era. I mean, they practically grew up together. They're really good friends.
They're local, aren't they?
Yeah, they're local. Yeah, they're
20 minutes
Devon.
down the road.
Yeah. So that's what's really like fascinating in a way, is that Coldplay just like really hit it off and they're a household name. Muse are one of those bands that people know about, but they don't know that they know about them.
yeah.
So
it's so true.
It's really fascinating, but if they're enjoying themselves, then let them keep going.
So that's kind of their future as a band. For your future as a fan, and like the future of your fandom, where do you think your journey? Because you said about people sort of going, "I've completed it.
Yeah,
I've completed my Muse journey." Will you ever complete your Muse journey, or will you continue this passion of yours?
I hope it continues, really. I'm happy to just keep going along, as long as they're making music and they're touring. I'll probably be there.
Is there a new album coming?
So I'd imagine that they're probably going to take a year break now. They've just finished the last tour. This is where I really show my nerdiness.
Come on,
so
Jazz, bring out the nerdiness.
They'll probably take a year off, and then they'll probably make an album, and then they'll probably do a tour following that. So I'd imagine give it 2 years, and there'll probably be some new music, and they'll probably be on tour again, and I'll be there.
Yeah, of course. Well, look, Jazz, it's amazing. We've been talking for like 40 minutes now. This has been amazing. So
I'm sorry, I've talked your ears off.
No, this is great.
No, mine was like an hour and a half before we got it down.
Oh, that makes me feel better.
It's perfect. So thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Matt, have you got any more questions? I've completely run out of questions now.
I snuck the audience questions in with mine, so you haven't seen all of those. But there was, I reached out to people who I know listen and sort of said, is there anything you don't understand about this or know about this? And some of those questions were snuck in. But
you sneak.
Yeah, well, I was kind of like, these are things I hadn't thought of. So we kind of snuck them in. So yeah, there's no audience questions. But if you do have any audience questions, please submit them to us, either personally if you know us, or on the Facebook page. Little plug for our social media there.
Absolutely.
And then we'll get Jazz to answer them if we have many. We'll send them all to her in a batch, and then maybe answer them via social media or something, and kind of do a clear up of if there's anything else you want to know. Here it is. I just got lost in that. Did you just get lost?
Same. It's amazing, because it's again learning so much about Muse, but also about what it is being a fan of something. Like I'm a fan of football and that sort of stuff. So you definitely can relate to so much stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
It's so relatable.
To begin with, everyone's like, well, what do you mean you do this so often? You spend all this money on this. But when you actually start talking about it, people get it a bit more. Yeah. It's like people will go and see the same film like a billion times,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, it's exactly the same.
Well,
but
hang on a minute. You've got a season ticket at United.
Yeah.
That's 23 games. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's that sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
So-
exactly. So it's just the joy of it. It's not necessarily the thing itself. It's the whole experience.
Exactly.
And that's what matters.
Well, thank you very much for telling us about being a superfan.
Thanks for having me.